Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. On today's tutorial, I am going to show you how I made this beautiful box pleated dress. If you are looking for some inspiration on what to make for fall to add to your wardrobe, then stay tuned. It's time to cut all the pieces. So I have one front bodice and two back bodices. And if you want me to show you how I drafted this patterns, be sure to leave a comment down below and be sure to have your bodice blocks. There is a tutorial for that already. I'm just going to pop them here in the info card. And here I adjusted the neckline because this dress is meant to be layered, so I don't want it to be super high on the neckline. Next, I transferred the darts on the bodice pieces and I'm just going to stitch them. So the darts is going to create shape on the bodice. After that, I pressed and serged all the raw edges of the bodice except for the neckline. We're going to finish that differently. I am going to stitch it along the shoulders and the side seam. Next, I'm going to add a waistband just to give it some extra detail. And by the way, you guys, my plaids are not lining up just because I didn't have enough fabric for this. If you are concerned about the lines matching up, be sure that you have enough fabric so you can actually pattern match everything. Now it's time to work on the bottom of the dress. So I have 3 panels. This one I'm working on is the front skirt, and then I have 2 pieces for the back. And then I went ahead and just pleated. I'm going to do a box pleat and it's 2 inches wide. There is a proper calculation for this and I just don't have time for that. I just eyeballed it, to be honest with you. Now it's time to stay stitch the pleats so they don't go anywhere. And by the way, I did the same thing for the back panels. So the back panels, I managed to get 3 box pleats. Now I'm just going to join it at the side seams. And then it's time to join it on the bodice. Okay, it's getting colder in this room, so I decided to put on my sweater. Anyhow, I sew in the invisible zipper. I have a tutorial for that, so I'm just going to leave it here in the info card so you can go ahead and check it out. Now it's time to finish the neckline. I will be using a bias tape. I actually got this at the thrift store for like 25 cents, so it was such a great deal. So thrift store is a great place to buy these bias tapes because they can be expensive like in Joann's or Michael's. I just open up the bias tape and place it on the correct side of the neckline. And as you can see here, once I reach the corner, I kind of pleat it so I can turn the fabric straight, if that makes sense. So if you pleat it on the corner, it will allow you to turn the bias tape straight, just like you see here. The corners are the tricky bit, but once you get the hang of it, it's actually pretty easy. And plus, I am using a narrow bias tape because this is what I have on hand. If you use a wider one, it's even better because it's much easier to work with. I also make sure that I left about an inch tail right here at the starting point so I can fold that in later on. Then I'm just going to stitch it right along the crease. So it's like 1/8 away from the raw edge. Once I get to the corner, I'm just going to slowly sew it and then I'm just going to pivot the fabric and then continue on sewing. So I will do the same thing for the rest of the corners. So just really easily or slowly while getting to the corners and just making sure that the bias tape is not moving, and then lift up the presser foot, turn the fabric and continue on sewing. After that, I am going to clip the corners. Be sure that you don't cut through the seam just before you get to the seam. And I trim this end so I can fold it under and then fold it inside the neckline, as you can see here. And we are basically going to encase the raw edge on the neckline, and it's going to give you a clean and neat, professional looking finished neckline. And then I'm going to top stitch the bias tape, as you can see here. And I'm just going to do it until I reach the other end. Just like I did earlier, when dealing with the corner, you're just going to lift up the presser foot, turn the fabric, and continue on sewing. And you will repeat that on all of the corners. And this is what the finished neckline look. You can actually hand stitch it or just use a sewing machine. It looked just as pretty, and I'm really happy with the way it turned out. Now it's time to finish the armholes the same way, but this time we don't have to worry about the corners, obviously. So I'm just going to pin a bias tape on the right side of the fabric and sew along the edge. So it's pretty much the same thing or idea like the neckline that I showed you earlier. When using a bias tape on the round, just be sure to fold the end of the bias tape, and then you are going to overlap it once you reach your starting point. So when you stitch it, it's going to enclose the raw edges. After that, I am going to fold it in and stitch along the bias tape and give it a good press, and it is done. I am very pleased with the way this dress turned out. I think my daughter is going to love it. Let me know what you think of this dress and how I can accessorize it. I am curious to know your input. Like always, if you enjoy this tutorial, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!